All right, good morning. Welcome in Friday safety focus of the week, 6:30. It's March the 10th. Thanks for everybody signing in. We got 38 right now. Hopefully we get a couple more trickling in. This week's code of conduct is to speak and act supportly of ECI as a company and our workers. Mr. Dow, you have anything you'd like to add on today's code item or this week's code item?
Yeah, I think in the public, anytime we're out there, being positive and supportive of the company and everyone that works here is very important. But we need to know that when we have to deal with things, they do still need to be dealt with. And we do that in a private way, in the right forum. So this doesn't mean that we ignore the problems and issues that come up that we have to deal with. We just deal with that in private. So positive in public and punishing things that have to happen are in private.
Well said. So another 7 days without a recordable. We did have a minor shoulder sprain on Tuesday that resulted in some first aid treatment. Kind of friendly reminder about proper lifting ergonomics and not overreaching, especially grabbing large, heavy objects. Amy's going to highlight some proper lifting techniques next week on our wellness series, so we'll kind of highlight that. But for this week, I wanted to kind of highlight a high frequency injury that occurs to us, and that's our hands. We're still not quite gearing up for the construction season, but it is coming, so I wanted to highlight it now, especially with the warmer days up ahead. We're going to start losing our gloves, and we're going to start getting higher exposure on our project as we're really starting to ramp things up. So preventing our hand injuries, the biggest thing is identifying those hazards. Where we're seeing it, when we're seeing hand injuries, it's either not taking the hazard seriously enough or not identifying it. So it's those pinch points, those rotating parts, those hot and cold surfaces, and those entanglement hazards are what we're seeing. Those are the main four hazards that we're failing to identify or failing to take appreciation for those hazards. And that's what's getting us hurt on our job sites in the past, decade or so. So again, elimination. How are we trying to control these hand injuries? First, identification, but where we can really focus in is eliminating by physically not putting your hands in those situations. However, the work that we do, we have to also remember those engineering controls because it's guards. A lot of our stuff we're using grinders and other hand tools. Sometimes we have to, get our hands close to these objects, these pinch points, and that's when we kind of want to use tools such as crowbars and keep our hands away from those pinch points by changing the way we work. So identifying it, change the way we work, making sure all of our tools have all the proper guards in place, or any lockout, tagout that needs to be done so we don't physically put anybody in harm's way. And then that last line of defense that everybody knows is that, proper glove selection for the hazards, wear those gloves, especially any hot surfaces, a lot of welding, torch cutting, things like that, making sure we got the proper leathers for those types of hazards so we can reduce those burn injuries that happen from time to time. So it's kind of straightforward, pretty simple presentation, but it's something that I want to highlight because it is our most frequent first aid, and sometimes could turn into a reportable injury if it results in stitches and or a broken bone. So try to keep your hands safe by identifying those pinch points in those hazardous areas and using alternative methods to keep our hands safe and sound. Anything to add, Ken?
It all sounds good.
Thank you.
That you only get 10 fingers, so you want to protect them.
Exactly.
And
Very
there's
important.
certainly a lot of tendons and bones that are very important to the way your hand functions that can be easily damaged permanently even. Okay, I'll take over the screen here. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right. So for announcements, daylight savings time is this weekend. So it starts Sunday morning, so you have to spring ahead, move your clocks ahead. And also another note on their floating holiday, winter floating holiday. If you haven't used your winter floating holiday, you got to use it up. So please enter 8 hours of holiday time into the Foundation Mobile and date it by March 15th so it can be paid out to you. If you have any questions, call Andrew up in the administration building. And then I kept a reminder about cybersecurity. Applies to a lot of our aspects of our lives these days, but also this is specific to 401k and using the Newport portal for access, and also new insurance certifications for vehicles are in. Hopefully you've got one already. If not, check with Sarah, although she'll be gone after noon today on vacation. So I'm sure, well, who would we check with, do you think, Ben Dow, if we haven't got those? But just ask around or maybe ask Pat or Chico. And then
Scott Burns has them.
Scott Burns has them now. So we have the winter floating winter holiday policy here that I referenced
was
above
muted.
in case you're interested.
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, you guys took care of it. I was talking.
Yeah, we got it. And a link to the primary care wellness program. And just a note on upcoming weather, we're still bouncing around just above and just below freezing for the most part. And for this week, we're going to talk about the Hungerford Terrace concrete package. That's on Hungerford Terrace. Actually, it's Hungerford Commons is the name of the project on Hungerford Terrace. And we're contracted with the Green Castle Group for the structural concrete foundations and slabs for this multi-unit apartment complex with parking on the lower levels. We're scheduled to start the work in November, and when we made a pre-construction visit, we became aware of an excessively steep side slope, so the open cut excavation was done by others. We subsequently notified the owner that we wouldn't be able to start work until the conditions were stabilized to allow for safe access and OSHA compliance, and Greencastle then contracted with ECI to design and construct an excavation support system, which was completed in November, which allowed us to get going on the concrete work. So at this point, footings, walls, and interior slabs are finished, and ECI will return a little bit later in the spring to construct the floating slab foundation and exterior slabs for the garage area. Quite a few footings. It's quite a complex little project squeezed in between a couple buildings and behind them. And we have 40 yards of footings. Walls, there's 210 yards of walls up to 8-inch wall up to 15 feet tall, so some good tall ones. And there's 3,780 square feet of interior slab, 400 square feet of exterior slab, for a total of 60 cubic yards. And this concept sketch from the drawings shows the new building sandwiched between a couple older buildings. The corner of Pearl Street's right beyond would be on the far side of that building on the right. So that's the old mobile station would be there right on the other side of that building. And then the new building, the more modernist building, extends behind the two older buildings. This is a view from the back side of what it would look like. Gives you an idea of the complexity. It is on a pile foundation, and it has lots of walls and piers and kind of carport area. And this is shortly after we completed the soil nail and shotcrete stabilization. You can see it on the Hungerford Terrace side, and then between the buildings. It was very steep. You can get a sense of the steepness from the footings next to that building directly in the front of the picture, how quickly it sloped up there. And then we had some sheet pile wall on the right-hand side for the ramp down area. The access was all through that little driveway on the other side of that house. So pretty limited access. Certainly one of these urban limited access projects with a small, excess footprint to work and stage from. Some more of our shotcrete wall in the background, and then the walls going in. You can tell that when you have that much stuff jammed in there, you can tell it was a busy site and it's congested. Tall walls in the background and also on the right side. Ronnie, if you have any comments or anyone else, please sound in
No.
here.
No, just that it was a very challenging job, just due to how tight the quarters were there. But I think the guys did a great job, and it came out good. And they're actually building it now, and they had zero problems fires building.
Oh, good. Yeah, they are stripping one of the, not the extreme high walls, but doing some stripping and exposing the new concrete. And here's a pretty much done of all the walls, ready to get the forms out of there. And then most recently this last week and in the last couple of weeks, we've been doing slab work here. This is inside the building. You can see, like Ronnie says, they've already started the structure and framing, and they're well along the way, and we've got a little protection to do the slab work. Another picture here. It almost seems a little weird having this much framing in there, doesn't it, Ronnie? It's not a very open area.
Yeah, it was very chopped up. As you'll see the next picture, it has like a little corridor, and it was a very chopped up. I think there's going to be obviously the bottom is living space also, so that's why it's kind of chopped up with the walls and stuff there for the different bedrooms and kitchen.
And we used our ground pump for concrete pumping.
Correct. Yes, we did.
There we go. And that's what I have for this week's. And then from the photo archives, just reminded me of when we had the annual Burlington paving contract. This was back in 2005 on South Winooski Avenue. And we in fact have it again this year. So we're looking forward to being out on the streets and doing some of this work. There's some of our guys that are still around. I see Scott and Daryl. Can't tell who else is who's on the roller right there, but it's some of our same guys from 2005.
That's Mike Beaudry.
Is that Mike up there on the roller? I mean,
yep. And that's Bubby bringing me a shovel full of mix back to do that structure.
Oh, there's
the islands.
Matt Cochran.
Bubby Chamberlain and Matt Cochran. Yep. I didn't scroll down enough. Good. Okay, good. Be safe out there today. Matt, I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. Hopefully it's going to be a nice day to be out there working safe. If you're watching a group setting, please let me know so I can capture attendance of this morning's meeting. And let's have a safe day and let's have a great day.
And don't forget about your floating holiday if you haven't used it. Okay, take care.